Good morning, everyone. I hope all of you and your families are staying safe and well this morning. My name is Ken Coghill, and I oversee the operational and technology risk supervision at the Dfsa. And I want to welcome everybody to the Dfsa Cyber Threat Intelligence Platform Workshop. The formal portion of today's program is going to last just about an hour, plus we will have time for questions and answers at the end. Today's session will be led by Simon Wilgoss. Simon is the head of managed security services at Help AG. And Simon's going to go through a brief introduction of what threat intelligence is and how to access the platform. He'll also walk through a few use cases and show a live demonstration for how to use threat intelligence. He'll also walk through the integration methods for advanced users. If you have questions or comments as we go along, please do feel free to type those in. If you're on a laptop, if you look to the right side of your screen, you'll see a question mark. Click on that, you can enter your question. If you're on a mobile device, that question mark will be on the lower tray at the bottom of your screen. If there's any questions that are useful for the rest of the audience to hear, we'll hold on to those till the end, and we'll put those to Simon so everyone can hear the answer. The other questions, we will do our best to respond to those as we go throughout the session. At the end of the session, you will see 6 survey questions. We ask that you please answer those. Those will help us know whether or not you've received your login credentials for the platform and whether you've received the user guides. If you tell us you haven't, then we will resend those to you. We'd also like your feedback on whether or not today's session was useful and whether you'd like us to do more sessions like this going forward. So to get us started, I'll invite Justin Baldacano to give us some introductory remarks. Justin is the head of the managing director for supervision at the Dfsa. Justin, over to you.
Thank you, Ken. Firstly, let me start by saying welcome to the Dfsa's cyber threat intelligence sharing community. Intelligence doesn't materialize in a vacuum. It's a collective effort, and the fact that more than 100 companies have now registered to use the Dfsa TIP makes us hopeful for the success of the community. 2 key components to an effective cybersecurity program is the information that we have and also the knowledge that we use. So the information is the what and the knowledge is the how. An effective program is not complete without information about the cyber threats that exist, and the information is not as much of what you use it for, and the knowledge that you use it for is effectively used. As you're fully aware, we launched the Dfsa TIP in January of this year. The idea for the platform developed was from an ongoing cooperation and collaboration perspective with the National Cyber Emergency Response Team and the Dubai Electronic Security Centre. And the desire was to enhance the cybersecurity awareness of institutions in the DIFC in line with the UAE National Security Strategy and Dubai Cybersecurity Strategy. The purpose of the TIP is to provide a threat intelligence to all companies in the DIFC, with the objective of improving each company's overall cybersecurity posture. And to aid the success of that objective, we appointed the independent third-party cybersecurity agency Help AG. To operate and manage the platform, their role was to analyse and curate threat information and to enhance it where necessary and to publish it on the TIP. They've effectively filled those gaps in information that members post and make useful and actionable. They are also here to assist in developing the threat intelligence skills and the platform members and support the overall maturity of the community. Today's workshop is the first step in that effort, and we thank Help AG for their support of the program. We would also like to thank Cofense, Kapasky, Palo Alto Networks, and Recorded Future for their support in providing general threat intelligence, specific phishing intelligence, resources to analyze threats, and periodic threats reports with typologies and trend analysis. Everything I've just mentioned is the what. Today's workshop is about the how. How do we extract the information from the platform? What do we do with the information once it's extracted? And how do we contribute to the platform? The majority of cyber attacks are now targeted and are not targeted, and are really impacted only at a single institution. Rather, they are indirect attempts at catch whoever is paying it least attention. That means that in order for us to avoid being the victim of a cyber attack, we need to pay attention to the threats. And we do this by working together in order to understand the threats and what they are and how to respond to them. The Dfsa TIP is the mechanism for sharing information, and today's workshop is a mechanism to understand how do we use that information. Please take advantage of this opportunity to ask lots of questions, and if you are more experienced, please feel free to offer your input as it'll help everyone else within this community. Once again, welcome and thank you for participating. I'd like to now go back to Ken to introduce Simon, who will be presenting today. Thanks, Ken.
All right, thank you for that introduction, Justin. Simon, I'll hand it over to you to walk us through today's workshop. Thanks.
Thanks, Ken. Thanks, Justin, for the introduction, and thanks everyone for joining the session today. I do hope you find it useful, and I'm going to start by talking a little bit about what cyber threat intelligence is and extending what Justin referred to when he spoke about what the platform is for. Firstly, I'd like to look at some of the more common types of cyber threat intelligence. On the presentation, you'll see 5 types. I'm going to touch on them briefly, and then we're going to move on to how to use threat intelligence, and then I'm going to walk through how to use the platform and how to get value out of the intelligence that's in the platform. So the common types of threat intelligence, firstly, threat indicators. They're often referred to as observables or facts or evidence of threat actors or people that have been moving about on systems. They are typically things like domain names, IP addresses, file hashes, or evidence of things occurring on a system. And they're often left behind by the tactics, techniques, and procedures, or TTPs, that are used by threat actors or threats. TTPs refer to the procedures, the methods, and the workflow employed by threat actors and other individuals. And as I said, leave behind evidence in the form of indicators. Other types of intelligence include vendor security alerts released by product vendors or solution vendors that contain information about weaknesses or vulnerabilities, and often include information about attacks against those and intelligence about those attacks against vulnerabilities, weaknesses against products. In addition to these, security professionals, cybersecurity companies, and other organizations that are involved in cybersecurity will often release information through chats, chat forums, tweets, and other messages containing information about threats and attacks. They may refer to other blogs or other sites that contain more details. Lastly, I want to touch on advisories. These are typically released by organizations like HelpAG and others, and are often an aggregated form of intelligence from lots of different sources into one artifact, either a blog post, a PDF, or what we call an advisory, notifying a group of people or the general public about threats and attacks, and including what vulnerabilities may be targeted, what systems are impacted, and how to respond to those threats. So what I'd like to do now is show you some contexts where threat intelligence could be used. There's 3 contexts that you see here on the presentation. The first is tactical, the second is operational, and the third is strategic. Tactical intelligence simply refers to intelligence that is typically obtained and used in an immediate context, near-term actions for immediate effect. And an example is an administrator taking indicators to see if there's malware, to determine if that malware is spreading within an organization. The second example is operational intelligence, which is typically used on a regular or scheduled basis. And the example here is communication that is regular to employees to notify them about threats and how to handle and how to respond to them, including what to look out for. The last context is strategic intelligence. And that's typically that the context of strategic intelligence is typically looking forward down the track and doing things to create a way for organizations to preemptively or proactively take action before they're attacked or before the threat is present. A good example of that is the platform that and the ecosystem and the community that Justin mentioned that DFSA have created in an attempt to establish relationships and a ecosystem of sharing before an attack happens for the benefit of the people that are part of that ecosystem or that community. So what is the platform for? Well, Justin mentioned the threat intelligence platform, and this is just a quick snapshot of some of the objectives of the platform. Again, as Justin said, the objective is to foster and support sharing of information amongst the users of the platform. It has and it will be a centralized repository for cyber threat intelligence from many different sources, and some of the vendors that Justin mentioned earlier are contributing intelligence to the platform. The platform aims to improve the ability of organizations and users to prioritize and detect known threats, as well as strengthening the posture of those organizations that use it and enabling them to respond quickly and even proactively. The platform also supports the sharing of information between different systems using different formats, including information about indicators, about threats, about campaigns, and even information about threat actors themselves. The platform itself is based on an open source project called MISP, M-I-S-P, and there's more information about that project available at the URL on your screen. So access to the DFSA tip is straightforward, and using the credentials that you would have received when you registered, you need only point a web browser to the website you see on your screen, tip.dfsa.ae, and using the credentials you received, you will be able to log in to the platform. I'm going to show you how to log into the platform really briefly. Then I'm going to point out some of the more common parts of the platform that we will use into today's walkthrough. We're going to walk through a number of scenarios, and I recommend and I strongly encourage you to have a look at the user guides on the DFSA website. The main manual user guide is on the screen right now, and I encourage you to download that, read it. It contains a lot more information than we have time to cover today. It contains information about the different parts of the interface to the platform. It contains information about how to use and how to get value out. And the three documents together provide a comprehensive reference point for all the users of the platform. So today we're just going to look at a few of the elements within the interface. We're going to look at how to list events. We're going to add an event. We're going to look at the attributes of events, and we're also going to search for attributes of events during the walkthroughs. So let's look at the interface now. So I'm actually going to log in fresh to the platform. As you can see, I've pointed my browser to tip.dfsa.ae, and it comes up with the login page. I'm going to use the credentials that I received from the tip. And it helps if you get your password right. Otherwise, it will tell you it's wrong. And when you log in, you'll be presented with this list events screen. So this is accessible on the left-hand side by clicking on the list events option, or from the event action screen, clicking on list events. So the elements we're going to use today within the platform are mainly this list events screen, and we're going to pivot from here to different places. We're going to add an event, and being able to add an event is possible from the event actions screen or from the left-hand menu over here when we're listing and reviewing events. We're also going to use this option over here, this box on the right-hand side, to filter events and to search for things within the platform. We're going to also review events by clicking on the ID of an event And the platform will show us details of the events when we search and when we review them. All right, let's start off with the first walkthrough. So I want to take you through 4 different scenarios. The first is regarding phishing emails. And when we talk about interacting with the platform, I'm going to use the terms consume and contribute. You'll hear those throughout the walkthrough, and you would have heard Justin use those as well. When we talk about consuming, we're talking about pulling information out of the platform, perhaps searching, running a search and extracting data or using data from the platform. When we talk about contribution or contributing to the platform, we're talking about adding information to the platform. So in this context, we're looking at a phishing email and we're going to search through the platform for some information about this. You would have seen many examples of these phishing emails. And I imagine that some of your employees may have even seen one like this, purporting to be from the World Health Organization, using the panic and fear around COVID to entice people to click on a link and provide credentials or download malware. In this context, it's using the World Health Organization to appear legitimate. And in this scenario, if you receive this, you may want to find out more about this email and whether it is indeed a threat or if it is indeed phishing, and what other information is available within the platform. So we're going to do that right now. We're going to search for the email address that you see on the screen that came through from this actual phishing sample. We're going to search for that. Then we're going to look at the event, review the event details. Then we're going to export some data from the platform. Today, we don't have time to go through and actually use that data, but I want to give you a sense of how to pull data out of the platform so you can use it in whatever context is appropriate for your organization. How you use the information from the platform will depend on the size of your organization, the capability you have, and also your appetite for taking action and communicating within your organization. So let's do that now. So we'll go back to the platform. I'm going to now take the email address that I showed you earlier, woohoosenhang@yeah.net, and we're going to use the search box on the right-hand side to filter all the events to see what events are returned or contain a reference to this email address. If there's multiple events, the platform will return a list of events, and I can choose them like this, but it'll be a filtered list. If there's one event, the platform will return and show me that single event. Okay, so the platform has returned a single event with this ID about a COVID-19 phishing sample. And as you can see, this event has been tagged, and if I do a search using my browser for the email address, you can see that the email address appears in the event in the attributes section. It's taken me down to the attributes section and showed me the email address. We can also see the URL that we had in the slide, bslines.xyz, that we had in our phishing sample. We can also see other domains that were not in the phishing sample that I showed you earlier. This info.coronavirus.be and this coronavirusaware.xyz. And you can see the XYZ domain has been used for a few different domains. There's also a file hash about a file that's dropped by the phishing emails. So this gives me confidence that the email that I received is actually part of a broader campaign where multiple domains, perhaps malware and other attributes have been used, perhaps with other organizations. Again, part of a campaign of phishing to entice people to click on a link, provide their credentials, or download malware. So one thing I do want to point out also is that you'll see that this column over here called related events, you'll see that the email address that I searched for and the URL that was in our email aren't correlated with any other events in the platform, but these domains, the coronavirus aware and info coronavirus, have actually been seen in multiple events. And if I wave my mouse over the events, it pops up information about those events. That one was added on the 18th of March. This one was added on the 12th of March. And these have come from different organizations. You can see there an organization that has been permitted to contribute to the platform has actually added an event to the platform for the benefit of the DIFC about COVID-19 phishing. So this gives me confidence that the email that I received is actually part of a broader phishing campaign. And I can now have confidence to take action and do something about it. So let me show you how to pull information out of the platform. We're gonna extract these attributes from this event using the export feature. To use that, we click on the download as option on the left-hand side, and it'll pop up with options, differing formats that we can use to pull information out of the platform. Today, I'm going to just use the CSV one here with additional context. That gives me visibility of the most relevant attributes in a CSV file that I can then take and use. So I'm going to click on that. My browser will then, I'm using Chrome, so it'll then, it'll ask me to save it, so I'll save it. And because I'm using Chrome, it'll download. There we go. I'll close that window. It'll download and pop up there. When I click on it, it'll open up Excel and it'll show me the CSV file as it does now. And once that pops up, I can review those and then use those to notify employees about other domains, or I can take, for example, the additional domains that I didn't know about previously and perhaps add them to other systems to detect or prevent access to them. You can see also that there's a file hash that I could use for other systems that maybe can use file hashes to block access to processes or executables. All right, we'll close that down. Let's crack on with the next phishing example. This one is another phishing sample, and now we're going to contribute some information to the platform. This is another phishing sample regarding discretionary bonuses that are on offer for all partners because of COVID-19, again, enticing people to click on the link and enticing them to enter credentials or download malware. In this scenario, as the organization that I'm role-playing is intending to contribute information to the platform. Okay, so we're going to take the details and we're going to create a new event. We're going to use the Populate From feature, which allows us to copy and paste these attributes you see on the screen here, the email address, the URL, and the domain. Paste them in. The platform will validate them and present us with those attributes before they're uploaded to the platform to give us a final check to make sure we're happy with them. And before we do that upload to the platform, we're going to do a quick check to see if there's any events related to this particular domain. So let's do that now. Back into the platform, we'll head back to the list events screen. We're going to grab the domain and we're going to do a quick check to see if there's any events related to this particular email and this particular domain. Again, if there's multiple events, the platform will return a list that I can choose from, or if there's one, it'll present that event. In this case, you can see the filter has been applied to that, the search, and there's no events that contain that domain. So that's great. I'm now going to contribute some information to the platform by adding an event. All right. So over here on the left-hand side, we're going to click on Add Event. And we're going to populate these details. These details are necessary for all events, and the date will be typically the date that you received the email or that you became aware of it. I'm going to use today's date. Distribution is about how this event is distributed between systems. These are called distribution levels, and which level you choose depends on the information that you have and how you want to share it. I encourage you to have a look at the user guide that I popped up earlier and that you would have received a link to. That user guide contains a full description of the distribution levels, what they're for, and how events are shared using those distribution levels. For the purposes of this walkthrough, I'm going to choose this community only, which is the DFC community. The threat level relates to the criticality or severity. I'm going to choose low. Low relates to and reflects mass malware, phishing campaigns, and broad campaigns of that type. Analysis, this reflects where you're up to in your assessment of this particular event or threat. Because we're at the start, I'm going to choose initial. If you're in the middle, you could choose ongoing. And if you've finished and there's no further work to do, you could choose completed. I'm going to choose initial. I'm also going to add a description here, which I saved earlier to make it really quickly for me to add. It's a phishing email for a specific domain related to COVID-19. This is a really simple, brief description of the event itself. And you can leave extends event blank if you're not familiar with that. I'm going to leave it blank now because it's not relevant for this walkthrough. Then when I'm done, I'm going to click on submit. And the platform has created an event based on what I put in. And as you can see, there's two things that are in red at the moment. One is the fact that it's not published, which means that other organizations and other users don't yet have visibility of this. The other is that the platform is telling me I haven't added any attributes or information about this event. The event doesn't contain any indicators or attributes. So I'm now going to add attributes using the Populate from feature. Okay, you can add attributes individually. The quickest way is actually to use Populate from on the left-hand side here. And I'm going to use the free text import feature, which allows me to copy and paste a large blob of text and allows me to paste it, and then the platform will sort out the indicators, extract the indicators, and present them to me so that I can choose and validate if I think they're okay. So I'm going to use the free text import. I'm going to copy and paste the indicators that I have. Okay, and the platform has come back to me with the results of the import, and it's added 3 indicators, and it's chosen categories and types for those. I'm comfortable with those at the moment. I think they're appropriate at the moment, and you can see that the URL here and the domain do not have any correlated events, but the email address has actually been seen in 3 other events. So automatically I have confidence that what I'm looking at and the email that I received is actually related to broader threats and broader well-known phishing campaigns. Because I'm at the start of my investigation and I'm not confident about these, I'm gonna uncheck this box over here. This IDS checkbox here tells other users and tells other systems that this attribute can be used and should be used for blocking or detection. And because I'm not confident about that yet, I'm just going to uncheck it. Okay, I'm not confident about whether people should be using these for blocking and protection of their own systems, so I'm going to uncheck those. I'm going to leave the distribution level to just inherit from the event, to take the event's distribution level, and I'm going to submit those attributes. They get submitted, they get queued to be added to the event, and when I refresh, I'll see them down below, and there they are there. And as you can see, it's included also the other events that are related. And the platform itself does that correlation behind the scenes without you having to do anything. So simply by adding the attributes to the platform, it allows correlation between different events from different organizations to relate them together, okay? And when I'm ready for other users to see this event, I click on publish. And when I'm ready, I click on yes to publish it. And when that publication process is finished, if I refresh, there you go. The event is actually now published, and if you logged into the platform right now, you'd be able to see that event in the platform with this identifier, okay? When you've completed the publication, congratulations, you've added your first event and you've contributed intelligence to the tip. Okay, let's go through our next walkthrough. So we've both consumed and contributed information about phishing emails to the platform. We're now going to look at another scenario related to suspicious login activity. Let's assume for a second that you've seen something suspicious, perhaps someone on leave that shouldn't be logging in, and the investigation or the review of that activity leads to observing of activity from an unknown or unexpected internet address, perhaps somewhere outside of the UAE, for example, if your staff are here in the UAE. I've got a sample email address up on the screen there, and what we're going to do in this example is we're going to search for this particular IP address. We're going to review any matching events, and then what we're going to do is we're going to look at the information through the lens of the platform to build confidence using specific elements and attributes of the events. How do we get confidence from the information in the platform to take action? We're going to answer that question, and then we're going to look at some more scenarios. During this walkthrough, we don't have the option or the availability to actually take action, but what I want to do with this particular scenario is help you see that through the platform, you can see more information than might be available to you to build confidence to take action. So let's do that now. Flick back to the platform. We're going to go on search for that IP address. How do we know if this is the user if we can't contact them, for example? So again, if the platform has multiple events, it will return a list like this for me to choose. If there's a single event, it will return that specific event and show me that specific event. Okay, so it's returned a specific event related to attacks against Slack, which is a common collaboration tool. I now want to show you a number of different elements of this event that give me confidence that I can take action using this IP address. So the first is the threat level. And if I wave my mouse over the threat level text here, you'll see it pops up saying medium relates to advanced or advanced persistent malware. So again, that gives me confidence that it's not just a commodity malware or perhaps a malicious cookie or something like that. The threat level of medium helps me see that the severity is elevated. The analysis has also been completed by this organization. They're not at the start, and it isn't ongoing. They've actually completed their work assessing this particular threat or campaign and have actually published the information you can see there on the 14th of April, okay? So these two elements give me confidence that this is a threat that I should take seriously. Also in the event, you can see related events on the right-hand side. So these are events related to the attributes, and you can see on the right-hand side that we have an alert from Desk. The contributing organization here is the Dubai Electronic Security Center. And this alert from Desk, the presence of this alert from Desk gives me confidence that Desk have assessed it and consider this to be a threat as well. We can also see evidence of other events related to malware spam campaigns, other events from the same organization published over the last few weeks related to credential phishing and more phishing. This tells me that this organization and the activity has been ongoing for some time, perhaps and most likely as a campaign over a longer period of time. I can also see here an advisory from the Thai government related to a bot delivered using emails of this type. And when government certs typically release advisories, we can have confidence about the information in them. So the combination of the threat level, the completed analysis, the related events, and the other originators of those events, desk and the other organizations, it gives me confidence to take action on this IP address. So at this point, I would have confidence to do something about it. And that might mean handing that IP address to an administrator. It may mean escalating my contact to the user. If I have doubts, it may mean actually blocking access from that IP address until I can speak to that user and have a conversation with them about the activity. So I hope that helps you see the information through the platform that can help you build confidence. Let's carry on. So the third walkthrough is related to a malware sample that we found as a result of those phishing emails that we received earlier. And after investigating those emails, in this scenario, we've found a file believed to be malware obtained from a PC. We're unsure about whether it's malware, but we believe it's related to those phishing emails we received earlier. So what we're going to do is we're going to actually take that malware sample and we're going to add it to the existing event that we created earlier. This malware sample is an actual file. It's a Microsoft remote incident file that contains a malicious URL, and the hash of that file is up on the screen there for you, just in case you're worried. And we're going to actually go and find the event that we created earlier. We're going to add the file as an attachment. The platform is actually going to ask us for some details and then extract information from that file and add that information to the platform. And when we upload it, we'll be able to see that information that's been extracted by the platform. And again, there's more information around how to contribute intelligence in the user guide on the Dfsa website. So let's do that now. So I'm going to go back to the event and go and find the event that we created earlier. Okay, there it is there. 234.243.660. Yeah, that's it there. So this is the event that we created earlier. I'm going to add an attachment. And when I add an attachment, it asks me for some basic information about the attachment. So firstly, it's the type or the category of the attachment. Well, I saw this one dropped or left on the system after the emails were received, so I'm going to say it was an artifact dropped by the phishing campaign. I'm also going to say, in terms of distribution, it can inherit from the event. I have no reason to change that. I'm going to add a comment. It's an invitation file for remote support that contains a malicious URL. And now I'm going to choose the file from my malware folder. There it is there. And I think it's a malware sample, so I'm telling the platform to encrypt it and create a hash of it and then present that information in the platform. So if the file in question is not sensitive or doesn't contain any confidential information, you can upload it to the platform. And I encourage you to consider uploading it for a couple of reasons. You can see here that now I've uploaded it, the file itself has been uploaded and it's extracted the file name, it's created some unique signatures, and it's also given me the size of the file in bytes. And there's a number of different reasons why uploading malware and file samples are helpful and relevant for the community that use the platform. The first is that if you don't have confidence about the sample, other organizations within the community, including Help AG, can help you gain confidence about whether this is a sample or otherwise. Through their own investigations, they can then contribute other information about this particular malware sample and help validate whether it is indeed malicious or otherwise. So it gives other organizations exposure and visibility of it. The second is that the platform will correlate against the attributes automatically, like we saw earlier. And as other people see similar malware samples, the platform will correlate those together and link those behind the scenes. The third is that when you upload the platform, it extracts this information out that you can see on the screen without you having to lift a finger. You can then use that information, and others have that information available to them when the event is published to use in systems to take action. As you can see, it's added it as a collection of attributes in the event that I created and is now available only when I click on publish. So I want to make that available to everyone. Yes, I do. I'm going to now republish that event after I've made the change. If I refresh my browser, you can now see that I've republished that event along with the details about the malware sample. Congratulations, you've just updated and republished the event with more information about a malware sample. So the last walkthrough I want to do is a walkthrough of some hunting scenarios. So today we don't have the ability to actually perform the hunting activities. They can take anywhere from a day to a few weeks, but I want to share with you some examples of attributes you might pull out from the platform and how you might use those to gain confidence to take action. So we're assuming that you want to proactively hunt for threats before something occurs, and you want to use information from the platform. So we're going to use a number of different attributes of different types, and we're also going to look at some different sources. Following this slide, there are 3 slides that talk about those different attributes and the different sources. And the point of those is this summary of a conclusion, a brief few words that gives us the ability to conclude or reach an outcome of whatever it is we're hunting for, and then an example response on the right-hand side. Downloading of attributes and extraction of them, we've walked through earlier. Hunting, how you hunt will depend on your tools, and typically you can use a system like SIEM tool, a SIEM tool. That stands for Security Information and Event Management System. That is a system that aggregates and collects and correlates event or log information. If you don't have a SIEM system, then you can use any log system or log aggregation or log storage system or log retention platform, or you can use the source of the events itself. And I'll give some examples of sources as we go through. So the first one is email. When you've identified some email attributes that you want to use, the idea is, in this example, is to search for those emails or email attributes for emails that were allowed or permitted into your network or delivered to recipients or people that have received that wanted to receive them from the information in the tip. And typically you would do a hunt over a specific period of time. Here we're giving an example of 24 hours using email gateway logs from a product like Proofpoint or from Office 365 or some other system like that. And the goal of that is to find emails that have been delivered or that have been permitted into your organization, and alongside those logs, the related events in the platform and the confidence that I talked about earlier from looking at the events themselves and the related events. And once you have that confidence, looking at that IDS flag that I mentioned that tells you that these attributes should be used to take action. When you have that confidence from that information, you can have confidence that that particular email is suspicious and you should take action. And if it's been permitted or delivered to recipients, then you're likely to want to alert an administrator or notify the users to take action against those emails. Such actions might include speaking directly to the user or even deleting emails from inboxes. And again, what actions you take will depend on your organization's size, capability, and appetite to take action. The next is network addresses. And so the event source here is likely to be something like firewall events from your next gen or traditional firewall. Once you've downloaded attributes, hunting for them over a defined period of time. The outcome that you're looking for here is to detect any network connections that are outbound or outgoing from your organization to those IP destinations from the tip. I say any network connections because any communication to the IP should be considered for investigation, not just those that are blocked. Sometimes people make the mistake of thinking that blocked means dealt with. Any network connections should be investigated. And when you see outbound communication and you have confidence that the related events and the event itself is indeed a threat, and that IDS flag is set on those attributes. Again, the IDS flag there gives you confidence that these attributes can be used for taking action. That should be considered suspicious. And example actions might be talking to your security administrators to identify the number of perhaps internal systems that are communicating, and speaking with the owners, or if it's a laptop or a desktop, the users of those systems, and maybe reviewing other activity from those internal systems once you've spoken to the users. The last walkthrough that I have for you is related to information from an EDR, endpoint detection and response, or a Sysmon type system. These systems live on endpoints, and they provide a surveillance camera across your endpoints, recording and watching all the activity going on. And so you can download information about file hashes and process hashes from the platform, go hunting for them over a defined period. Here we're using 24 hours to detect if any of those files have actually been executed and attempted to run on the systems. And once you've reviewed the events and you have confidence about the related events and the threat, and you can see that the IDS flag is set on those, generally speaking, those should be considered extremely suspicious. We've said here suspicious plus plus. At that point, taking action might involve isolating an endpoint, or again, speaking to the asset owner, or reviewing further activity to take further action, or take action across multiple endpoints. And EDR solutions do give users of them the ability to isolate endpoints quickly and rapidly. So how you respond then will depend, as I said, on the size of your organization, the ability you have to respond, and the appetite you have to take specific actions. On the slide here, you see some different options for organizations of different sizes. These are examples, and on the left-hand side, we have some that may be relevant for small organizations up to say 100 people. In the middle, we have options for medium-sized organizations up to say 1,000 or so people. And on the right-hand side, we've provided some options for larger organizations, a few thousand and above users. What you do, again, will depend. So for example, establishing a virtual team on the bottom left here could be relevant for every organization, including medium-sized organizations, if you don't have a dedicated security team or security resources. Establishing a virtual team and planning how to respond to an incident like a phishing campaign allows you to get ahead of the panic and plan and prepare if something was to occur. And again, if you don't have a dedicated team, then establishing a virtual team and a common response process, bringing in perhaps leaders, technology leaders from different places, will allow you to respond much more effectively and much more quickly if something was to occur. More information about how to use the platform is available in the user case guide, which is one of the documents that Dfsa have provided a link to when you registered, and the link is there on your screen. Guys, that brings me to the end of the walkthrough. Thank you for coming on that journey with me. I greatly appreciate your time and the opportunity I've had to share with you about that. I'm going to hand back to Ken now. Thanks, Ken. And thanks, everyone, for being with us this morning.
All right. Well, Simon, thank you for that very informative presentation. We'd now like to open it up to questions if anyone has anything for Simon, or if you have any comments, anything to add that you think might be helpful for the rest of the viewers. So we do have time to take that. I do have a couple of questions, and Simon, I'll read these off to you now. You made an interesting comment earlier when you talked about one of the examples. You highlighted that it was an event that Desk had published. Therefore, you could look at that, and based on the credibility of Desk, you could know that they did the assessment. What if that piece of information was posted anonymously? How do I assess that? Now, if someone's looking at other related events, what is the type of analysis that they would do to do that assessment?
Yeah, good question. So there's a couple of things about the platform that will help you understand the information that you see. Generally speaking, someone has to take ownership, an organization has to take ownership for an event. It is possible to publish events anonymously within the platform, but what an organization has to take ownership of, and we call that delegation. So if you want to publish something through the platform anonymously, i.e. not attributing it to your organization, it's possible to do that, and more information about that is in the user guide. You have to delegate that to another organization. So someone has to take responsibility for owning that event in the platform. When you have a situation where you cannot identify or you have uncertainty about the organization, there's a couple of things that you can do. One is if that information is only published by that organization and there's no other correlated events, you can go and look at that organization. Information about organizations is available within the platform, and generally speaking, you can identify organizations by their name, like Desk, and you can go and look at the organization, you can go and look at who they are, what they're for, and I would encourage you to go and look at historic events from the platform about that organization. Every event will have an organization attributed to it, and we typically refer to that as the organization that created the event. Okay. The other thing is to look at other events, as I said before, and look at whether other events they've had have been correlated. And the other thing you can do is look at the attributes that I mentioned earlier. Have they completed their analysis? Look at the analysis field that we looked at earlier. Are they consistent in completing analysis, or does that organization always upload events with initial, for example? That's just some of the ways in which you can validate an event from an organization you're unfamiliar with and gain confidence.
Okay, great. Thank you for that. There's a second question here, and maybe I'll answer this one if you don't mind. The question is, we're not confident about contributing to the platform yet, but can we still use the intelligence on there? The answer to that is yes, you can use the intelligence whether or not you contribute to it. In the long term, we do need everyone to contribute, because the long-term sustainability of the platform depends on all the members contributing to it. Somebody has to put the information on for others to consume. In the short term, we've taken measures to make sure that the platform remains rich with information. And doing that, we've appointed Help AG to operate and manage the platform to make sure that there is information on, and we've also have the arrangements in place with Cofense, Kaspersky, Palo Alto Networks, and Recorded Future, so that we make sure that there is, say, a rich flow of information. To date, we have posted over 57,000, I believe, events on the platform, and that's from these arrangements. Now, going forward, the community would be the ones that would be feeding all that in. So over time, we do want you to build up the confidence and the capability to do that, but right now you don't have to. You do have time, get comfortable with it, understand how it works, and over time we want you to contribute. Simon, for you. So if I come across samples of phishing emails, but I don't have the resources to conduct the necessary analysis, can I post those despite not having all the necessary information? What do I do?
Yes, you can. You can upload those like I did to an event. I would encourage you to consider contributing whatever it is you can and marking the event reflective of your analysis. You can see in the example that I gave earlier that I wasn't confident about finishing that analysis, so I marked it as initial. That allows people to correlate with that information across other events as well. And the platform does that underneath the covers without you having to do anything. It also gives people visibility of potential threats. And the more people that contribute to the platform, similar or the same samples, the more confidence the community builds about those samples. So the answer to your question is yes, you can. And the way to do that is to mark the event appropriately, like I described before. Great question, great question.
Okay, and we've got a couple more. One, would it be possible to publish a periodic threat report sent to registered individuals, which we can circulate around our firms? Yes, it is possible, and that is something that we are looking at doing here in the near future. We are working with our other vendors, with the vendors that I mentioned, to put something together that we can circulate, something that's more of a high level discussion representation of threats that you can circulate. So yes, to that. Is there an intention for the Dfsa or other parties to host roundtable forums for registered platform members to discuss trends and analysis periodically and to provide feedback? The answer, yes, there is. We've had a couple of roundtables in the fall. We do intend to start doing those again this year. Of course, those are for small groups, so we can't invite everybody to them, but yes, we are doing those already. We've had a couple. We will continue. At the moment, it's simply just a logistics concern, working those out over a webinar type of function this way. But yes, we do that. We think that's very important to continually engage with you outside the platform. Where can I get my login credentials? Okay, when we finish the session, you will see the 6-question survey. One of the questions is, did you get your credentials? So if you are the authorized person to access the platform and you've registered with us already, select no on there. If you have not registered already, then you'll need to log into the Dfsa e-portal and register through there. There is a terms and conditions that you'll need to agree to. Once you do that, then you'll receive an email from us after you've registered. We will provide you the credentials and we'll provide the user agreements in that email. If you have already gone through that step and you still don't have your credentials, select no to that answer, to that question, and we will follow up. We'll resend you the credentials. Okay. Take a quick look. There was a couple more questions came in. So our TIP contributions mostly derived from Help AG, Dfsa themselves, or from financial services organizations themselves. So they're provided by everybody who's a member, who's a participant on the platform. And that would be we would provide them. We are participants. That's the Dfsa. Help AG does provide those. The other third-party experts, Cofense, Kaspersky, Palo Alto Network, and Recorded Future provides them. And then all of you who are members would provide that as well. Simon, is there anything more to add to that? I believe that's.
Yeah, I can add. So and on top of the information intelligence that Help AG are providing, Help AG also have partnerships with other organizations. And Dfsa have asked Help AG to curate and feed intelligence to the platform from our partners as well. And we have connections and partnerships with other organizations, communities of financial organizations, and we're feeding information and intelligence through to the Dfsa platform as well. And over time, Help AG will continue to do that, and I know that Dfsa also will continue to seek out new partnerships and continue to invest and contribute to the platform to ensure it's valuable to the members.
And I'll add to that too, we also have feeds from AE, CERT, and Desk. They are also actively contributing intelligence to us that goes onto the platform as well.
Yep.
And as evidenced by one of the examples that Simon used. Okay, let me just check, make sure we've gotten through all the questions. Yes, can you please share the link to the TIP integration guide? I have the TIP user guide, but I guess that's different. All 3 guides are in the email. If you don't have that email, or you think you haven't received all of them, then select no to the answer in the survey at the end that asks if you received the user guides, and we will resend the email to you. But all the guides were made available in the email. Another member is asking, is there any webinars or opportunities where employee training about cybersecurity staff awareness can be provided? We are looking to host more of these awareness sessions in the future. So again, the questions at the end in the survey, do ask if you found this helpful, would you like future sessions? And there is a comment box. So please, in there, if you could fill into the comment box, give us some idea of what type of training or workshops that you'd be interested in. And we certainly want to continue the engagement and do what we can to assist in developing the skills within the community. So do let us know in those questions what types of things you'd be looking for. Okay, I think there's one more here. Simon, let me see if you wouldn't mind taking this one. How about a situation where it's been determined that the threat is just a spam mail and no other threat attributes are known?
Yeah, what to do with that? Look, there's billions of spam, and there's 2 ways you can go about it. If it's spam, the typical way that most organizations and systems and people deal with spam is just to block it, delete it. That's a typical response to known spam. And you'll notice that many email providers take that approach quite aggressively to spam. Microsoft being just an example of a company that takes an aggressive approach just to blocking and deleting spam or putting it in your junk. That's the first. The second is if there is a suspicion that the email could be more than spam, then perhaps searching for similar emails might be useful. However, if the email is spam and looks like spam, then I would treat it like spam. That's how we would typically handle it. Adding it to the platform, individual samples is probably not as helpful as the information about the emails. Obviously, you can upload samples of those emails to the platform alongside an event. The information about that campaign, that sample or the multiple samples, is still relevant. However, uploading of those samples is probably not so relevant. You can still do that as per the example that I gave earlier.
Okay, great. And are reset password requests required to be emailed only to tip@dfsa.ae? At the moment, yes. We are looking at ways in the future, though, to allow entities to administer their own logins. But for now, if you need to do a reset, just email us at tip@dfsa.ae. Okay. There's one I can see being typed in right now, so just give it a second.
Fantastic.
Okay, is the intention to report on incidents which pertain only to our DIFC firm? For example, are we looking only for threats that are Middle East specific as opposed to wider information about our group? And simply, it's not specific to just the DIFC. The world shares common attacks, so things that happen outside could be of impact to the Middle East and the DIFC. Simon, is there anything else that you want to add to that one?
Ken, I would echo your comments there. A lot of the threats we see at the moment are global, and as Justin mentioned earlier, a large proportion of threats phishing campaigns, other types of attacks en masse are actually targeted not to one organization, but to many organizations, and some of them are global in nature. Some attacks are limited in scope, and there are limited numbers of those targeting Middle Eastern organizations. Help AG have seen a number of those in the past 12, 24 months. But generally speaking, inside the platform, you will find information about both types. You'll find information about threats to, for example, UAE, maybe even UAE financials. You'll also see information about threats and campaigns against organizations, perhaps financials across the globe, as well as other threats a little bit more generally. We try as best we can at Help AG to ensure that those that are UAE focused and in particular relevant for financial services organizations are the first and quickest to get into the platform because we understand those are most relevant, but they're not the only ones that are relevant. A great question, and great set of questions as well. Thank you.
Okay, another question. We have an information security team where we report phishing email where technical aspect and management is taken care of. Do we have to still report all those events into TIP's intelligence platform? And I'll take this one if you don't mind. Yes, we would still like that. First and foremost would be to report that through the incident report that we have on the Dfsa e-portal. Report that to us if you've had it. The second is, if you feel that incident, the information about that will be helpful to another firm on the platform to protect themselves, then put that on the platform. So we would like you to post that information. The platform is about helping each other out and giving each other the information to protect themselves. So yes on that.
Good question.
Okay, there's another one being typed in. Will there be a page for useful links, useful documents, template documents, etc.? This is something that we are looking at the moment. We don't have that. That is something we're looking at building out going forward.
These are great questions, by the way. I really appreciate when people ask questions of this type. They help others understand the platform as well, and go towards building the community and building a common understanding of how to get the most value out of the platform for everyone. They're great questions. Thank you.
Okay, there is another one here. I have seen threats that were very localized that have attempted to scam people out of funds via WhatsApp, etc. Is this the kind of thing applicable to the platform, and is there also a process where this should be escalated to the authorities, the police, etc.? Yes, it should be escalated to the authorities. The police does have a portal to report these through, and the information, if you believe it, again, it's helpful for other members of the platform, then yes, that is the kind of information to report onto the platform, the attributes of that threat.
Definitely, yes, I agree, definitely.
Okay, looks like that's the end of the questions. Unless anybody else has anything last, they can type in very quickly. I think we've come to the end. So Simon, thank you again for that very helpful presentation, very useful.
My pleasure.
For everyone else, the next steps will be, once you've finished, please fill out the survey. A number of the questions that you asked at the end here, the survey will help get us the information to get back to you with the user guides and your credentials, and let us know what you'd like to hear about going forward, what other workshops you'd like to see. Log on to the platform. When we're done here, have a look around, take a look at it, talk to your IT teams, make sure that everyone who needs to be aware of this is aware of it and how to use it. If there's any questions that you have, if you need any additional help getting onto the platform, using it, please do contact us through the tip@dfsa.ae email. That's tip@dfsa.ae. So that concludes the session. Thanks everyone for attending, and please stay safe. All right. Thank you.
Thanks everyone. Have a great day.
Thanks, Lon. Thanks, Ken.
Thanks, Justin.